Alright. How is everyone doing? Good. I really need to set this up on cloud or at least a different computer, because I pretty much use my main computer to do all this, and it makes me not be able to do certain things. But I've got other machines which I could use to do stuff. Okay. Wow, I got a headache. I think I need coffee. Or water. Water's good. Did I forget anything? Switch to stream key, good. On mic and everything's good. We're set. Maybe it's just gonna be a slow night. Shows that I'm live. Okay, if I'm not live, then I'm just sitting here talking to myself. Which I'm sitting here talking to myself anyway before anyone joins anyway. Oh, goodness. Wait. Yes, it's working. It's up. People are viewing. Alright. I didn't make any mistakes this time. Hi, someone. Hi, Kevin. Alright, else. Does this show takes calls? Yeah. I think we do, Pillbox. You can feel like calling in anytime you want. And we're waiting for Eric and Kelly. They should be coming. Hey, David, how's it going? Sorry, just cleaning up some stuff. It might be a slow night today. What day is today? Wednesday? It's hump night? Hump day? What? Okay, stream looks to be okay. It's weird. It's awfully quiet. Pillbox, look in the description box. You'll see the number that you could call in. That's all the information there. Van Jones calling Russia, nothing burger. Well, what? Oh, well, that's because the CNN thing. That's probably fine. Now that everyone knows it's fake news, anyone that follows it is following fake news, so they're probably going to start towing the non-establishment, non-mainstream media narratives. Hi, Harry. Wait, can you hear me, David? I can't hear you if you're talking. Settings are good. Get out in front of Project Veritas, releasing hidden video from ABC. #1 on the hit parade, Tupac. You mean the movie? I haven't seen that movie yet. I didn't even know if it's out. I'm gonna have to watch it and do a video on it. This is really odd. Oh, alright. Hey, Ben. Alright, so it's working. I was getting a little bit worried here for a second. Let's see, what was that movie called?
Hello?
Contemplating the question about the Russia, blah, blah, blah. Of course, I think Harvester, I just was checking out Harvester's video, and there's the, like, I guess Veritas style or Veritas thing with CNN. But just in general, just theorizing about that. Isn't it just the Democrats having to, the people who are, you know, Democrat loyalists, Hillary loyalists, whatever it is, the people on that side of the dividing line or fence of the liberals, isn't those folks just like having to tell themselves like the lullaby over and over again to believe it, like tell themselves something, you know, repeat the story that, like, you know, everybody has that idea about like you're going to the news that reinforces what you already think, and it reinforces what they already told you. But this is really you know, the special occasion about, you know, like taking up space and ramping up people's feelings based on the Russia thing, whereas, you know, probably because out of like worry that instead it's going to be focused on the you know, the parts of what happened that are sort of indefensible, which would be really hard to. I've never heard anyone really throw down to like.
Well, you kind of cut off there, Ben.
Oh,
Ariel, do you want to do a mic check?
Oh.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
What?
I can't hear David either. There's something going on here with...
Yeah.
Yeah, normally you can't hear
I
me.
still can't hear you. I don't hear Denton either. I think you're trying to talk, Denton. David.
Yeah, nothing's off.
Alright. Well, let's see if Stevie... I can hear Stevie. Ben, are you still there? I can't hear you.
yeah,
I can
Just
hear
kinda dropped
him.
off.
I'm hearing you.
I'm hearing everyone.
Fine.
Alright.
But
Okay, in this episode of After Hours, we're just gonna lip sync it.
But I was just wanting to like say that's kind of what that's what's going on. It's just like
Okay.
they have to hear this story
That was
again and
just
get
wrong.
so that
Alright.
they can keep on. But I
Okay,
think-
Ariel can
Mhm.
hear everyone, but I can't hear them.
Yep.
What the
can
heck
hear
is
you.
going
I
on
think
here?
that somehow like we're doing something similar.
Stop on it,
People
too.
who are on the other, like who've been following the trend or something.
Wow, that's really crazy.
Are doing something similar about like continuing to be hyped up about it, or like
Wait, so
excited
it's
about
the
it.
reverse? Oh, here we go. I know what it was. Okay, sorry. So it looks like I actually turned off my audio. I can hear you guys now. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Yvonne. How about you?
Good.
Good.
Were you hearing me before?
Yeah, I could hear you, but you couldn't hear us.
Okay, yeah. Oops. W. How does W say it? Whoops? Or. I don't know. Who cares? Sorry. I was like, what the heck happened? Alright. So I didn't hear the end of that, Ben. I thought you dropped off, but it was me. Sorry.
Oh, no big deal. Yeah, I was saying kind of a lot, but I was just kind of basically that you know, thinking about the Russia like coverage and all these things. I sort of just was thinking today, reflecting on that, and thinking about how it's sort of them telling themselves something over and over again to just keep the keep the stories, like, I don't know, alive for them, which is something that, you know, like and something very emotional, like, I guess, or, you know, and that's all, like this like, fervent dislike of Trump and keeping all that going, but I also think that we can look at it from the perspective also that we're doing that as well. Maybe because they're doing it, we're doing it in another way in response to them, or reacting to them being all convinced and excited about the, you know, Trump's you know, rapscallion scoundrel, you know, in bed with Russia. It's all big, you know, they're the resistance, and they're the, you know, sponsored by MSNBC and CNN. Go figure. I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of funny. I'm just trying to look at it, and but also see how, like, you know, it's such a big force that we're reacting to it all the time. So it's also sort of sweeping us along with it, and we're doing a similar thing by reinforcing ourselves. So maybe that serves a little bit, somewhat or slightly, to like apologize for like how I want to like give TYT or Sam Seeger credit if and when it's due. Big if, occasionally sometimes, but you know, I just think that they're doing the same thing as like Tim is doing, and Tim can't do it alone. So it's good. It's good that anybody does any reporting. If John Oliver does a good, you know, good piece here or there, that's great. And, criticizes all of it for the some of it, you know, and like, but at the same time, it's still hard to stomach any of it, including Seth Meyers and Bill Maher, even though they might be saying good things in some places. I don't tend to tune in.
Yeah, I haven't tuned in for a while. I'm just kind of wondering what the echo chamber is going to sound like after this whole CNN debacle. Whether they're going to keep.
You can just pretend you haven't. They went with that before.
Yeah, I mean, I guess people will probably just say how it's just Project Veritas. They did the same thing with others, and it was just messed up. But they'll probably dismiss it.
They're like.
They'll say it was fake.
Martin Shkreli of like news, you know, like they just took it too far, and now they make everybody else look bad. So now everybody's going to shame them, you know. That's my idea.
And the ratings are still going to be good for them if they keep talking about a fake Russia narrative.
Oh yeah.
Was it H.A. Goodman that just said yesterday, like how CNN's had, or was it Tim or whoever? Somebody just was saying, one of them I think was just saying yesterday that CNN's ratings have went up like since last year or something remarkable, and so I think that's kind of ironic timing that you hear about that yesterday and then today.
Yeah.
Or well, just happened.
I think that was in the video of Project Veritas. The guy who was hosting that episode or whatever, he did a little bit of checking on it.
Oh, Stevie, you're here, right?
Yes.
Hey, I talked to Greg tonight at dinner about your experience up there in West Virginia. And his question for you, through me, would be, what is it that you experienced in particular that led you to feel like people were in a position that they were begging for health care rather than demanding it? Was it something they were saying, or just a general, you know, feeling, a general, you know, attitude that you got, you know, like picked up on, or just what was it that you would say really led you to feeling that that was the way people were behaving?
Oh, hold on 1 second. Hold on.
It could be both. It could be, I mean, begging or demanding. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, she was right there. So, you know, it's like there's things that you can pick up by being there in person that you just can't always get by watching it on a film, or, you know, it's just you pick up on, it's like intuitively, you just kind of get the feel of a room, you know, like a vibe. At risk of sounding like a complete new age nut job here. What was the vibe?
This was this. I always at least think of like, also neither, or also both, or also maybe that's not the way to look at it in terms of like those two things, like demanding or begging. Like, I don't know why. I mean, yeah, maybe it's a distinction, but I'm always just.
Yeah.
But
I know that as being a musician, you know, if you go to play in front of a crowd, you can pick up a feeling. Are they all in kind of a general good mood, or do they not like what you're doing, or what someone else is? There's a feeling that you get from a group that's hard to quite always put across in, you know, in a film or in a video.
Okay, sorry, it's like chaos and here and trying to get some sun in bed and all this. So, yeah, well, basically, I mean, like, they just flat out really did beg. I mean, they're like, please don't take away our health care. Please don't do it. You know, please vote no on Trump care. And basically, like, what they were doing is they were setting it up as, like the big bad villain, Shelley Moore Capito, and she's going to take your health care. And, you know, it's basically getting people to go back to the right-wing healthcare plan. And it wasn't like framed like, you deserve healthcare. At no point did the speakers ever say that. It's just like, it was, and they were thanking Joe Manchin for going along with Obamacare, and it's just like he cares, you know?
Right.
Like the whole narrative was all messed up. It was just really gross. They just kept saying please, and it just kept making me think of that little kid, you know, the Charles Dickens, please, a little bit of porridge. Like that's exactly what it sounded like.
Were they hearing signs or anything that really like spelled it out literally?
Yeah, well, I think there were signs that they passed out before Bernie came on. I didn't get any of those.
They were pre-made. They weren't so much on their own, right? Yeah,
it was just like people here, like we were very receptive to the single payer, but then it was like the sheep herding, you know. It was like, let's steer this back over to Obamacare, you know. But then Bernie came on and he talked about single payer, so you know.
Right.
But they made sure to like drown it out with all the other people they brought on before him. So.
Yeah. And so were people literally? Did they bring anybody up from the crowd to speak, or what? You know, what kind of speakers did they have? Was it only Bernie, or what? Who else was involved? Were there any real people talking? In other words, you know, that weren't politicians or anything?
They had organizers, political organizers, like from Planned Parenthood, and they pushed Planned Parenthood pretty big. And even though, like, I didn't even know that there was one here. Last time I checked, there wasn't, but apparently there is.
Yeah.
And you know, like that's not something that really speaks to like West Virginians. You know, like that's. I mean,
right.
We have an older population. Like Planned Parenthood isn't our thing.
Right.
So like, you know, talk to them about like Medicaid or you know something like that.
Right.
We're poor and we're older, so I don't know. Like they just seem really out of touch, and they did bring in some people from WVU, like young people, but this was an older population. Like if it was at WVU, I would understand it. It would be because like at his rally in Huntington, there was a lot of young people there.
Right.
But here in Charleston, you're not going to get that.
Different.
So, yeah, they just, I mean, and I could, you know, I see where they would expect young people, but we don't have that here. We don't. Right. They leave.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's the feeling, and that there are places like that it's like the young people just get the hell out of there because they don't want to deal with living in a retirement center. Almost is how it will end up feeling like.
Yes, a retirement center. Yes, that is exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that in parts of Arizona that I've visited. It's just old people, and it's really funny. I mean, it's like the street rolls up at 8, you know, and it's like there's nothing.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yeah, they bring the sidewalk in, and that's it. You can't. I mean, after dark, that's it.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, my experience is funny talking about Planned Parenthood because, see, when I was living in Oregon, I needed to use one once, just for like a yearly exam because I didn't have health care at the time, and it was really great. Like, the experience was excellent. It was very clean, very well run. Everything was so professional. I got a year of free birth control and as many condoms as they could shove into a bag, you know, they gave me. So it's like, and I, you know, it was kind of like, well, if you want to leave a donation, that's how we run it. So the way I did it, I just gave them like $50. But if I had gone and gotten all that from a doctor, the exam plus a year of birth control, holy cow, that would have been a lot of money. That was probably at least $500 that they gave me that day. So that was a really good experience. Then when I came out here to Atlanta and I called because I wanted to see what the way they do it here, it's $60 minimum for them to see. And then you're going to have to pay to get your birth control from a pharmacy. They don't just give it to you. They don't, you know, prescribe and fill it there. So here it's way more expensive. And yeah, it's different by state. I would have to say that Oregon is definitely, there's a lot of downsides to it, but the upsides is, yes, it's probably about as much like Europe as you're going to get, you know, within the U.S. because of the good public transit, no sales tax, good social programs, you know, decent health programs for people that are either low income or no insurance. And you don't find that as much in the southeast here, like in Georgia. And, you know, I'm not sure where, you know, West Virginia and kind of like the Appalachian states really fall on that spectrum. But that was my experience, East Coast versus West Coast and Northwest versus Southeast.
Yeah, like I don't know how we got by with this, but in my high school they had like a bank and a health clinic built into it, like as part of the school. And so like they had at the health clinic they had like this thing where you could go over there and like get free birth control and testing, and they give you condoms and all this stuff. So it's just like, I don't know how they got by in the Bible Belt, but thank God for it, you know, like that I don't know how many pregnancies they probably prevented with that.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because, you know, the whole thing is, you know, it creates a better environment. In that book, you know, I don't know if people remember that, Freakonomics. And the people that conducted these studies, they weren't in it. They were like, they were pro-life, pro-choice. They had no, you know, particular leaning either way. They were just studying data, and something that they found, you know, was how the crime rates had dropped at the time that they wrote the book. Well, at the time they wrote the book, I'm trying to remember, I guess that was probably in the 90s. But essentially what it gets down to is they tried to study different factors. You know, what was it that created this drop in violent crime? Mm-hmm. And they looked at, you know, economics. They looked at, you know, how much people were making money-wise, jobless rates, homeless rates, rate of poverty, you know, police reinforcement or, you know, reconfiguration of how law was being conducted, et cetera, but they really couldn't find many changes. And finally, what they sort of got to the point of is that about 18 years before that, abortion had been made legal. And so they figured, you know, what happened is a lot of these poor, impoverished people that would be more prone to committing violent crimes down the road just simply weren't there. They just weren't there to commit the crimes. And so the crime rate had dropped inexplicably. It's a kind of fascinating thing that, you know, people always, there's a lot of arguments around that always, and it's a hot issue. But the fact of the matter is, you know, people that are poor, desperate, in harder situations, you know, are usually going to be the people that end up doing these kind of things, not because they're evil, just because they're desperate, they're poor, they're hungry. And so if you, you know, I mean, it's just, yeah. Thing.
They've cracked down majorly on you know, women's rights and, you know, reproductive and all this stuff. I mean, now they've got it to where parents have to be notified if a minor gets an abortion, which they only had one case of last year. Right. One case, that's it.
Yeah.
And like, where's the epidemic of, you know? But I know, like, when I was in high school, and I graduated in 2006, they had that clinic. But by the time my sister was in school, there was kids as young as 12, several kids that were getting pregnant.
Yikes.
Yeah, 12. They're babies. Babies having babies. And they're going to crack down on that. It's sad.
Yeah.
Well, like,
I can't even imagine having a baby at 11 or even having sex at 11. My God. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And the thing that happens, see, is that, you know, they don't take into account things like incest or rape or molestation. So what happens when a 12-year-old girl's uncle or father or stepfather gets her pregnant, and then she's got to go to talk to him about, now I've got to get rid of this thing that you gave me? I mean, that's, to me, that's, you know, it's part of a compassionate society. You have to consider situations like that.
Oh, yeah. They quoted the Bible as the reason for instituting it. They quoted the Bible, and this is the same guy that voted to put all these toxins, lead, arsenic, mercury, into our water to poison our children with, because he cares so much about the babies.
Right. Go ahead and have it. And then they can drink the lead polluted water and have permanent brain damage once it's born.
Yeah, but you figure out how to take care of that baby, that sick, you know, damaged baby. with no jobs, nothing here. I mean, it's I don't even know what is the point. I mean, like, I know they want to keep us poor, but I mean, we're already there. Like,
yeah,
what are they doing?
You got the poor part down, guys. You wanna just add you know, insult to injury. That's really it.
Yeah.
Well,
Just
the
wasn't
Democrats
enough.
were supposed to stick up for, they like for 10 years have been talking about Obamacare and they haven't even implemented it in like every state for everybody. So
Right?
but it's supposed to be so great. Like one day you might get Obamacare. I guess it's actually going to be like repealed probably before a lot of people even get it.
Oh, it's everywhere. It was supposed to.
Wow, have they already repealed it, or is that just like it's in place? I don't know the specifics on it. I don't know if it's like repealed, but they don't. But is it still in place? Because I've heard people say that it's already repealed, but then but is it still in place until they find a new plan, or I don't know.
I guess it's there until it's not. I really don't know how these things go. You know, the timing of them or how quickly they really take effect once they're changed.
Every day it's something new. It is really hard to keep track of all the different stories. No problem. I love talking about my state, even though most of the time it's terrible stuff.
I thought it was just a waste of time to dally on Bernie for a while.
Yeah, I just, you know what, he can do all the fake news.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks for illuminating a little bit more about the Bernie event that you went to.
We're going to come up with our own solutions, you know, whatever.
I kind of have a feeling that that's the way, you know, healthcare is going to go. Either we're going to end up having a really violent revolution over it, or we'll just keep not getting listened to, and people will just, I mean, it might even end up being like illegal doctors on the side that just see people for small amounts of money just because they, you know, there's a desperate need. Could happen that way. I mean, there's a lot of that kind of thing already cropping up.
I don't know. It's just it would be a good thing for a politician to do, to like invest in, you know, healthcare for people and you know, new hospitals and doctors and making sure people get taken care of, and you know, regulations for the you know, water and soil. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess the crazy world we live in, where like the rhetoric is so severe that, you know, even, you know, on the right, it's like, yeah, condemn you if you don't have the money or whatever. You should have saved, put some money in savings and had the you know, wear it with, or you know, I don't know, had more preparedness about yourself on the, and that's like Hillary, or if you don't beg for us to keep Obamacare and petition Trump, it's like, yeah, you set the stage for us to have a good voice with Trump. You know, it's like any possibility of Trump trying to do anything and be like happy for like a populist swell of people electing him was like running to the ground as soon as like you know, as soon as like they just like gave him crap for like 6 months straight or whatever it was, like that.
Sure. You know? Yeah.
It's horrible harassment, and I don't know. Ugh.
Yeah, and I think, you know, too, there's so much to it, like you said, you know, with people taking better care of themselves and all that kind of thing, and it's important. You know, but we're in a situation where, you know, I feel like we're coming to a big tipping point. I saw some of the footage of, you know, people in California at the Capitol, you know, protesting and very, very upset about the playing around with the you know, public option and all that. You know, it's just oh my goodness, I just feel like there's the pot's beginning to boil, and you know, because it's sort of like people are going to start getting really angry if you dangle that carrot of universal health care in front of them and then just keep yanking it back. You know, we're on the crux of something, and it's really interesting. And I just get the thing I feel is, you know, when it comes to, you know, the way that this is all played into, is how are these guys going to play it? Like how are the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical bastards all going to play this out? Say that the drawer is just too deafening and there's just too much. You can't ignore the people anymore. They want healthcare. Boom. So how do they, they're going to try to twist it somehow so they still get rich. And, that's, I think, the whole point is.
It already happened. That is Obamacare. What you're talking
want
about.
them to stop being, filthy rich. And it's, but they're so slimy. They're going to try to figure out how they can benefit, how they can profit from it somehow, even if it starts moving forward.
Well, basically, they're just using Trump as a big old, stick to beat us with, so that way it's like we'll just rush back into their arms, like, oh, it was so scary out there in Republican land. We'll never vote them again. I'm so sorry. We won't do it again. I'll vote Democrat, And we're not falling for it. We're not falling for it. I mean, you can see that with Ossoff in Georgia. Yeah, people aren't falling for it.
But I would really like to see, like I said, people put to work online to organize information about health, exactly about health. Like anybody, who could, offer insight and medical technical knowledge about the things, and then I feel a lot better about them than just anybody having an account to add something, on some web or health website. But there's a lot of good information and data and everything that can be put together in really useful ways. But it's like, people doing that, it's not free, right? And so why not do that in a bunch of useful ways and help increase the public's access to databases, and since we're not gonna have doctors maybe have more those web consultations or something. I don't know. I guess it gets tricky though, medical advice and.
I gotta one second. I gotta go do some stuff. Kelly, you've got the or controls
stuff going on. Sorry, I didn't realize you had started.
No problem.
I was watching the other
tonight.
Yeah, they're pretty forward thinking when it comes to making basically the pharmaceutical companies rich, and so for prescriptions. They made it easier for people to get prescriptions of Xanax and stuff. And now they're doing it to where you can do it over the webcam here. Even though, a lot of people don't have internet. But if you're rich enough to have the internet here, you can get your prescription online.
That's an interesting thing you say, Stevie, because I think there's so many people, I talk a lot about the bubble where I live and how people just fly over, middle America, and it's like only the coasts exist, right? Everyone has the internet. It's just not a thing that people think of, that there are people that don't have internet,
Well, it's not only that we don't have internet, but most of the time people can't afford to keep it on. It's so expensive. I pay $120 a month just for basic internet, or else they'll charge me for the data. And you always end up going over because, you watch 3 videos and then you're over your data plan, and they charge you an arm and a leg for it.
Right.
So, yeah, it's so expensive.
Yep.
Wow.
I heard there was this poll done that said that high schoolers graduating are 16-year-olds or something like that. Maybe it was 16-year-olds. Prefer. There was a poll said, if you could only have one, would you rather have an iPhone or a car? And it was a draw. It was 50-50. 50% wanted an iPhone more than a car. So it doesn't matter identity and utility.
Here, a car is necessary. We don't have public transportation. Plus, everything's so spread out. You can't get a KRT, and plus, if you do, it's going to take you 4 hours just to get 30 miles. It's ridiculous. And so, but if you go down to DHHR, they count a car against you. They consider that a luxury.
Oh my goodness.
But also, your phone bill is a luxury. Internet is a luxury. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. In today's world, it's all luxuries.
Mm. Yeah, I still think there was no. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that these are things that, unfortunately, as part of the technosphere that we're now living in, you are not able to function in the modern construct any longer without having access to basic access to a computer, basic access to transportation, and to call that a luxury is absolutely ludicrous.
Especially young people, especially 18-year-olds or something, or somebody who I think they really need that, to starting off to, pretty vital.
Yeah.
I mean, even to make an email address, they want to verify it with like a text or a phone number. And so you can't even set up an email anymore without a cell phone.
It's true.
I used to call my mom and say, okay, they're going to send you some code and just send it to me.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I find that we basically treat healthcare like a thing. It's a for-profit industry. And so selling healthcare is the same as selling a phone or selling a car. I have a friend that I've known since I was a teenager, and she's got both MS and fibromyalgia, and she has had it her whole life. One of the wonderful things that those diseases can do to your body is that you can lose your teeth. They can just fall out. They discolor and or fall out. All these kind of wonderful things that happen to your teeth. So as a result, it's very hard for her to get a job because she goes in there and you can't really smile at people because her mouth is a wreck. And she can't get it fixed for any sort of decent price because they consider it cosmetic dentistry and it's a luxury.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is not something that she smoked or she did something to really stain her teeth up or she just didn't brush them enough and they got rotten and fell out. This is nothing. It can't help it. This is just part of what MS does. It also, half her life, off and on, has paralyzed her down the middle. Imagine that. It does all kinds of awful things. Sometimes it can turn you, make you blind. Sometimes it can render you deaf. I mean, those diseases do all kinds of weird stuff you can't predict. And so that's what we do in this country. We tell you got to go out and get a job, and you got to present yourself in a certain way to get a better job. But if you can't present yourself in a certain way, then we're going to tell you it's a luxury to do that. So it's disgusting. I mean, that's what we do, though. Everything is for profit. You want to buy some teeth? You want to buy a phone? You want to
stay alive? You want this drug that's going to save your life? Pay up.
We had a chat on one of the other nights a while back about, I can't remember who all was there. I know Ebon was there, but it was about take Congress people and basically force them to go live in, somewhere on food stamps, basically taking people out of, some people have tried to do this, a couple senators, I remember something about someone trying to do it for a week, but really put them in that and see how they do.
Yeah.
Do y'all watch Family Guy? It's like that one episode where that guy in prison would he goes and he stabs himself or something. He's like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been doing to people all this time. I'm a monster. I belong here.
Yeah. Well, it's I used to joke after waiting tables for many years that you should have to present a card that says you worked one night in a restaurant to be able to go out to eat, because then you won't be such an asshole to people as a customer. Yeah. But you should have to go experience what the people that you're serving, that as a congressperson, you're making decisions. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I did waitressing 2 days. I lasted 2 days. That's it.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for people that can do that as a living. Holy crap, that's hard.
Well, Stevie, are you happier with some of the people running now in West Virginia? I didn't actually catch, is it Swearigan? Is that her name?
Yeah. Oh, I love her.
Okay.
She is fantastic. Here's the thing, she's been here, she's been asking Joe Manchin to do the right thing. She's been fighting against mountaintop removal. She's been trying to get these politicians to do the right thing. And when they didn't, that's when she ran. She's like, if you're not going to do it, I will. She's not one for begging.
Right.
So does she have a lot of support, do you think? What do you hear from people?
I haven't gotten to talk to anybody much about Paula Jean, so most of the time it's like just like healthcare or, you know, like why'd you vote this way? Or like trying to get a sense of like who they are, you know?
Yeah, right. Well,
But
I think
I've kind of been a bit of a hermit here lately, just kind of cracking down on the news and doing videos and just covering stuff. It's just like, it's hard to do all that.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I think so many people just think they can't run, I guess. It's you know, I think Bernie said that on one of his you know, one of his speeches or something, was saying, you know, go out and run. You know, why can't you run? If you're passionate about it, go out and do it, you know.
Why don't you run?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Me.
Kelley, you.
No, I can't, but that's not something I can do because it requires too much. So I have 8 hours a day that I can be upright.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh.
So you see me, I have an invisible thing. So I can be upright for 8 hours a day. Occasionally I can push it longer, but it will oftentimes cause me brutal headaches.
Yeah.
So I think I described this on another time, but the simplest way to explain it, I'll take this bottle, pretend it's an hourglass, right? And when I stand up for the day, there's the sand,
yeah.
and my spinal fluid leaks out
Yeah.
throughout the day from my lumbar spine.
Wow.
So I'll get like extreme headache that starts at the base of my skull. So anyway, there's no real cure. I've had like umpteen million epidural patches, and I'm like the spinal tap queen. But no, I just, there's no real cure. If you get, some people have had surgery, and you can get what's basically a rebound high pressure situation. They finally plug up your leak, but you've been overproducing CSF for so many years, because mine came from a car accident in 1994. So you end up then with a high pressure situation in your head, which is way worse, because you can't do anything. I can lie down and it'll get better. You have high pressure, you got to take all this Diamox, which is for mountain sickness. If you think of people that climb Mount Everest, whatever, they have to take. Anyway, it's just a complicated, weird thing. But anyway, so I can't commit to anything like that, because I'm fine some days, but I'm really not reliable. So
Okay,
I mean, but
forget you then.
No.
Okay, so Ariel,
you do it. No.
No, okay, Alias.
Hmm?
Alias.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, hi,
Oh,
Cheryl.
brother.
Somebody mentioned about Congress, some senators and stuff in Congress going to food stamp for a week. Well, Cory Booker did that when he was mayor of Newark.
That's what it
for
was.
a week.
A whole week.
It doesn't make a difference.
It what?
And a whole week, and it didn't make a difference. And he went out there and watched and became a senator, and look at him.
Yeah. No, I think they need at least a month, maybe 6 months. We were talking about it could be a reality show.
Give them a year. That's give them at least a season of a TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could do like Survivor, like America edition.
It depends on where,
brilliant,
too.
Stevie.
Here it wouldn't be a problem. California, I can't imagine it.
Can you guys see that? I can't see that.
All we see is a white. Oh, now we see it.
Who would have loved to see one of these jackasses?
Okay, do you see how much that is?
Yeah.
All right, so I had 2 crowns, an extraction, a cleaning, like a few months ago, and that's how much the bill was. But I had Obamacare, but my copay only ended up to this.
Holy shit. Bargain.
It's like, and I'm paying for this up like over $100 a month. It's on a payment plan. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Talking about that plan sucked. It's just so it's just that. I don't know what to say. I could go on for hours and hours and hours regarding.
I could too, actually. I could go on for a long time. And,
yeah.
Now, who
Yeah.
wouldn't love to see a show where some rich jackass has to sit down with his calculator and try to figure out how he's going to pay for food and medicine and his car payment and his house? I'm telling you, people would love the shit out of that. They would love it.
Wasn't that the entire principle behind that Warren Buffett film?
Yep.
I didn't see that. I'll have to check it out.
It's just basically, it's just basically a documentary following around Warren Buffett, and it's just sort of like, please tell us the most exciting things about you. And Warren Buffett just spends the entire documentary going, dude, I just manage an investment firm. There's literally nothing else that's interesting about me.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're like, but you live in a middle class house. You drive a used car, for God's sakes. What do you mean there isn't something in? Dude, that's literally the only thing that seems to be interesting to people.
Wow.
It's a
guys.
It's a very weird slide.
Shirley.
Oh.
Hey guys, I'm from Philly, right? And our mayor here, he want to handle panhandling. So he said instead of giving to the homeless, they made an app where we donate $5 to the app. He must be effing crazy.
Will you donate $5?
$5 for the city to make more money. They're not going to give that to the homeless.
No, of course not. Well, why would they do that?
They'll put on some stipulations like you have to be drug free and you have to do this, and that's how they work around that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, about scraping by, I always mention my uncle, but I told him this not too long ago. I was like, you have no idea, like, if someone has like car trouble and it's 2 days before payday and you've got a couple $100 repair bill, you have to make a choice. You know, I mean, we joke about it in college. We used to play clean out the refrigerator, but that went on a long time. You know, a heel of bread with some cream cheese seasoning on it. You know, but I mean, that people just don't understand that if you have credit cards and just put it on there and take care of it later. But when you don't have that access to credit either, people have to make these choices all the time, every day. And I just think there are too many people that don't get it. And
that is what's so dangerous about credit cards and the,
I don't have one.
culture of debt that we have, is that is what has allowed people to not just completely hit bottom a lot of the time. And so that is a part of what is delaying the pain, right? That's what's delaying people from feeling the direct pain of I don't have money for food, is because they can use a credit card if they're desperate, or even if they're not desperate, they'll use it anyway because people just don't like taking cash out. They don't, they'll
right.
go.
Well, we talked about the housing market last night, and that was a huge thing. It was the home equity line of credit, and so everyone did that, and that delayed that. Mm-hmm. You know, they were. I think most people were using that for necessities. You know.
If people were really having to live on what they actually bring in, I think we would have already had a revolution. Would have had it, because that's the whole thing, is that people live in this fake sort of wealth. It's fake wealth, not actual wealth. But it's a way of keeping the masses calm. It's a way of making sure, that they don't feel the actual pain of hunger, because they can still essentially get by. Even though they're still getting screwed, they're getting screwed. It just they don't feel it the same way. It's not as direct.
Yeah, and it's not just your debt. It's not just like your future debt. It's like they're taking your paycheck, and then they're taking your future paycheck, and then they're also borrowing your children's wealth, because with that money that you would have had to pay for your kids' tuition or to buy them a car, now those kids are having to be in charge of that stuff now. So you're born against your kids' wealth.
Exactly.
See, the thing I've been looking for a job for 2 years, and every time I look up for a job in my profession, I do legal secretary work, I find the ad, I'm like, oh, it's a position open. And they said, oh, you must be bilingual. You must be able to speak Spanish. I'm like, oh, that's great.
James, are you asking Shirley to turn the volume up a little?
I don't know if she can. I don't mind.
Okay.
For Shirley, I'll grab both speakers. It's okay.
You guys
So-
can hear me?
Yeah, mostly. It's just fainter than others. So
You're a little low, Shirley.
if you can turn it up at all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
Can
gotta
you
be
hear me
careful.
now? Can you hear me now?
That's
Yeah,
a little better.
That's better.
That's better.
Okay. Now I'm saying I'm a legal secretary and I've been looking for a job for 2 years, and when I go apply for one, I found out.
Are you there?
She kind of.
Yeah, I'm there.
All right.
I think is someone. No one else is on. Okay. Thought maybe there was someone else trying to talk. Okay.
I have to be careful with my volume, my mic control, because I don't want to fart and everybody to hear it.
It's okay.
Because you will know that it's a fart.
Alexa,
I
turn on
know
fart
we told
control.
you to eat healthier, but sometimes that can lead to more gas. So try to balance it a little bit. Too much cabbage, too much beans, broccoli, that stuff can really get you going.
My husband's on this Soylent drink that does
Oh
that.
no!
What is it? What is it?
People, though. It's people.
I know.
Fast forward and just start eating the humans. Go ahead. Start.
What is he taking? What is it?
It's called Soylent. It's like a meal shake. I think some geeky IT people came up with it. They decided, huh?
It's literally called Soylent.
Yes, it's called Soylent.
Wow.
I'll show you the package. But,
You gotta be kidding.
no, look it up. Go to the website. Go to the website. Soylent. And
It's people.
These guys decided it was too difficult to put, Sam's Club frozen pizzas in the oven, and it was just easier. Supposedly, the story was a bunch of coders or something, and they're in whatever, like, what's the show? Silicon Valley. I always think of those guys in your house. But so
Leave it to ITs. Leave it to ITs to come up with that kind of crap. Holy crap. Leave it to ITs. Wow.
That was right.
My husband has like no metabolism. He's asleep. Oh no, you're not? Okay, sorry. But he's doing this shake because he's just trying to sort of shrink it down quickly. So anyway, it's better than like some other kind of shake because it's really got supposedly everything you need in it.
Oh, I bet it does.
And then some. It's even got real Charleston Heston flavor.
You know what gives you a good metabolism?
Oh, that's just wrong. It's so wrong.
Coffee.
That too. Also, apple cider vinegar.
Only in this society would that sell. Only in this society would that sell. That's the wow. That's just wow.
Wow.
It actually gives me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know.
I need apple cider for my greens.
So Shirley, you were saying you're trying to find a legal secretary work, and there's like none?
For 2 years, and when I see a position and apply for it, you must be bilingual.
Oh.
Speak Spanish.
Oh.
Or what state do you live in?
Huh?
She's in
What
Philly.
state?
I live in Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia? Really? Huh.
Yes.
Like, I know that was like a big deal in like North Carolina and places like that, but like I wouldn't think like Philly would be like, you have to be bilingual. That's weird.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I'm going to say it's a shame. It really is a shame. There are so many countries out there that are bi and tri and quadruply lingual, and the United States, for some reason, we can't even speak our own language correctly.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, because I remember I saw Michael Moore's movie Where to Invade Next, and in Finland, the kids learned like 2 or 3 different languages.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's the key, though. We are starting to now teach at a younger age. But like when I went through school, you didn't even pick a foreign language till high school. So by that point, it's so much harder to learn. So now at least they are doing
that. A part of that isn't just because we're dumb, lazy Americans. It's actually because if I lived here in Georgia and they spoke another language one state over or one state above me, it makes a lot more sense, because if I want to go over there and be able to talk to people, I need to be able to do that. So it's different, because you're in a situation where you've got people that speak other languages very, very close to you, whereas we do not. We're just in this massive landmass where everybody speaks the same language on the whole. And the only reason we're now starting to think, well, maybe we should learn Spanish is because of the influx of Latino people. That's it. But we haven't had the necessity of really saying, yeah, maybe I should really learn French, or maybe my dad's French, maybe my mom's from Germany, and they're both speaking different languages. And so I grew up, easily going in and out of each one. When the mind is a lot more supple,
Yeah, I was like super lucky. Like back in high school, I took like French, Chinese. I took 7 years of Spanish from like middle school to high school. Amharic, which is like what they speak in Ethiopia. I mean, like it was. Yeah, we got to do all kinds of stuff, but that was mostly through Upward Bound, so through the summer program.
Okay. Yeah, it's usually like a charter school or something, except now there is Spanish, or at least in North Carolina here, there's a lot of Spanish in the elementary grades.
We're a lot
but unless you're in a charter or something.
Working in different countries, though, I saw something different between the use of Spanish here and being multilingual in other factories. I've been in meetings where people speak 5 different languages being spoken in the meeting. But when I go to factories, even here in the United States, it's becoming that English is the overseer language, and it's almost like Spanish is the slave language. These people are being paid low wages and whatever. They have no hope of getting out of it because their supervisors speak to them in Spanish and whatever. There is no upward chain to break to the English side for them. And that I feel is bad. Canada requires 2 languages. And although it's not actually equal languages, they do, to get out of high school, you have to speak English and French. So I'm not against speaking 2 languages. I'm really upset with the stratification into a class of people defined by their speech.
Good point.
You're in California, right? Bram, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I'm in California.
So, yeah, you know what he's talking about, huh?
I've seen it.
So, any big stories anybody cares about?
I have the thing that I don't know, just something I'm noticing. I'm noticing a lot of there has been a few commentators and anchors and people that spew supposed news on CNN are kind of pulling away from the Russia narrative.
Little late, huh?
I know.
Yeah, they put in a PR consultant firm to help them now.
It was just the next thing you'll hear is that it was just a joke, man. It was just a joke.
Yeah, they're jumping off of the Russia train. They're starting to realize that, pointing the finger at somebody else while you're the culprit is not working, and they're starting to get away from it. And sadly, a lot of people are just going to let it go. That's probably what's going to happen.
Yep.
what we need to do, honestly, is take control of the narrative and say, okay, you know what we should do? We should buy into it. This is my honest opinion. We should buy into it and say, okay, now let's fix our election system so that that can't happen again.
Right.
Let's go ahead and take control of that narrative and say, okay, fine, so be it. The Russians tried to hack our election. Let's fix our election system so that it can't happen again.
Right, and bring in all of the things, like go through the election justice report, item by item. You guys read that? What happened in the primary? Yeah. And say, let's fix this, and this, and never shut up about it, right?
I had this conversation with my dad because that's all he watches is MSNBC.
Oh.
And he was all over the Russian thing. And I said, look, Dad, if this was real, how come we're not hearing about a crackdown on the top executives in all of the mainstream media companies, all the top CEOs, and how they have ties to banks in Russia? How come we're not hearing about that? How come we're not hearing about getting a hold on our election system and ensuring that this doesn't happen again? How come we're not hearing about that? So if this was real, why aren't we hearing about these things? And my dad just kind of looks at me and goes, I didn't think about that. And I bet a lot of people haven't because it hasn't occurred to them.
Yeah, and they don't double check the votes, double check to make sure that each state was done fairly when all these Russians are trying to hack us. That's so weird.
I think of it this way. I think most people just are so busy, and they maybe they have news on in the background while they're fixing dinner. They're working, they've got kids or whatever, and it's not the general public maybe doesn't have the sort of news hound, whatever, I'm say gene, whatever it is that we all have, wanting to take the time to dig and look. And it should be the role of the media and real journalists to provide that information to those people that want it in 20 minutes top. I'm busy. Yeah. Give me the goods. And
we don't have time to do our job and theirs too,
Right. So they just came to trust it, and I don't know. The thing is, though, I think they lose that trust, it's going to be very hard to get it back. So this stuff coming out now, if CNN ever gets a good reputation back, I don't know.
Yeah, good luck to them on that one.
Jeff Zucker should be fired from CNN. And today MSNBC was still talking about Russia, tying Manafort to Russia, and I'm like, they just don't learn.
So
I thought they would have learned after CNN was exposed.
Oh my God, it's so embarrassing because it's like when somebody's lying to your face and you know that they're lying, but they don't know that you know. It's just like, oh wow, that must be really embarrassing. I wonder how TYT's covering this now because I know they were pretty Russia heavy coverage. TYT.
Yeah. I don't know. I think some of us just have a better nose for bullshit, I guess.
The main show of TYT covered Russia, but Michael Tracy, because Chink went after Michael Tracy because he didn't believe it.
Right.
Yeah, that was awful.
But
Michael Tracy interviewed Kate, what's her name? Kate Van Hoodle, her husband. He's a professor, and he interviewed him, and he said this Russia story is nonsense.
But didn't he cover the Seth Rich story and really shoot it down in this way that sounded very Michael Tracy, right?
He did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he did. He did do that, but he don't believe this Russia story.
Mm-hmm. I'll say about Seth Rich, I tried this in a chat group that I'm in. Someone was saying, Jimmy Dore, that they liked Jimmy Dore until they saw him cover the Seth Rich story. He discredited himself. And I said, okay, I'm going to press this person on this. I said, well, what do you mean? What did he do? Because I thought in that first one or whatever, Jimmy Dore was pretty critical, I thought. He was kind of like, Rod Wheeler doesn't have evidence. Do you guys remember? Did you see that one?
No, the first one, he was he was kind of speculating, okay, if this is real, then what are the implications? And then the second one he did was the one where he got really critical.
Right. Okay. So this person though says, well, that just discredited him. And I said, well, what was it about
video?
And I know, but I kept pressing her on it, and finally, the whole thing was just because he mentioned it, he considered that discrediting. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Look, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but let's just look at the facts. We have this unsolved murder. Just look at the facts. It's not crazy to question,
No,
And the processor of the lawsuit. I saw the video of the processor, Sean Lucas.
Yeah.
He mysteriously died of some high narcotic cocktail that is hard to get, fentanyl and stuff. That's crazy. Yeah. It's scary.
No, it's like this idea. What really bothers me is this idea that you do something that one time and it suddenly besmirches your reputation forevers. People know. Most of you guys know I don't have a very high opinion of folks like Sargon of Akkad, and so it bothers me when people like Hard Bastard attempt to defend people like him. But you know what? Even despite that, even as much as I despise Sargon of Akkad, I'm not going to fucking ring out Hard Bastard over it and say this is unforgivable. No,
I don't know who the other name.
It's the position I disagree with him very strongly about. That this particular person required a defense, to pull this back to Jimmy Dore, he made a piece that was critical of a position that you espoused maybe one time, and then went back to your side immediately after the fact. Pretty much after the fact, almost immediately. And you can't get over your butthurt ego because it's not like he was directly insulting you either. So what are you so upset about?
Well, the mainstream media has so tainted the Seth Rich story that it's just absolutely preposterous. If you just even mention that name, you're crazy.
That's true.
Yeah. And we have to remember that these people are still human. Humans make errors all the time, and sometimes it's in judgment, and sometimes it's in reporting. But you look at the overall record, and Jimmy's pretty good on that stuff. So
Well, then she said, "Well, I kept pressing her. What did he do to discredit himself? Please tell me," because I knew the answer was just because he talked about it. But she wouldn't say. And then she finally says, well, he opened himself up to criticism from Dave Weasel. And I said, okay, but
he did a hit piece on Jimmy Dore from the Washington Post.
Right. And I said, but how does that have anything to do with what Jimmy Dore did? He didn't discredit himself.
Somebody attempted to discredit him. That's a totally separate thing.
Right. I know.
The two don't follow.
Right. So Joanne, right? That's your name, right?
Yeah, hi, how you doing?
Hi, okay.
Hello.
I just wanted to see if you wanted to jump in anywhere there since you just joined.
Yeah, I'm just going to stop by for a little while. With the Russia thing, I was wondering what you guys think about this. I didn't see it, but Jimmy Dore did a video on Chuck Schumer and how he has come out with a bold new plan and no baby steps for the Democrats, and basically taking on Bernie's policy. Well, we assume he says it's going to take them a month to formulate their policy and announce it, but they're going to announce it this summer. And I thought the timing was interesting in that the Russia story is in my opinion, maybe getting called off. And I'm just wondering if the Democrats, the leadership, have told the media, tone this down. We're doing a major change here. is there a connection between those two things, or are they just coincidental?
I don't know. I think Jimmy Dore was just saying BS to his lining, talking about economics.
Yeah.
So this is brilliant, because you're thinking like a marketing strategist, a PR strategist. So what's happening is they're starting to realize that this big facade is going to get exposed. Hopefully, they're hoping it's not going to get exposed with somebody bringing Seth Rich and connecting the dots to WikiLeaks, which would just completely take down the DNC. But if that doesn't happen, and there's no true connection to Trump and Russia, then they have to find another angle to save their caucus.
Right.
Okay. So I think that's a brilliant deduction, because I was thinking the same thing when I was listening to Jimmy today, and I watched his podcast in regards to that about Schumer. We're going to do it, and we're going to bring something together in the middle of summer, when Jimmy told them exactly what needed to be done in like 5 seconds. But for some reason, they have to take a month, and it's taken them like a year and a fucking half to get together.
That's because they have to focus group it and really work on how to sound authentic. Like, how can we sound like we mean what we say?
We know how bad they are.
They're gonna buy this bullshit.
Yeah.
You gotta make it sound authentic.
It's timing. They're doing it on purpose. I think that's a brilliant deduction. I think that's a good theory that could definitely be exactly what they're thinking, is that Russia's going away. We look like idiots. We have to stretch a little farther.
They will sell no bullshit before it's time.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Hey, did anyone sign HA's petition to get the DNC to have the FBI look at their servers?
I share it every single day.
I have not.
I share it every day.
What is it? What is share what?
Good.
H.A. Goodman, he has a petition on his YouTube page to ask for the DNC to turn their servers over to the FBI and DHS.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how I missed that.
Eric, can you send me the link on that? Because I haven't shared that in a while.
I share it every day on my Twitter.
It must be when
I would
I'm
like to share it too.
Send it over.
It's never going to happen. It is never. My brother, God bless him. He worked for Hillary's campaign in Nevada. It's never going to happen, because there's shit on those servers that is incriminating, and it will bring the whole damn thing down. Never going to happen.
I know it would.
Okay, but maybe if they're forced to somehow, which, why hasn't more been done?
Wouldn't it be ironic if it turns out that the only reason they knew that the Russians hacked their servers was because they paid them to hack their servers?
I can't see how it's legal for them to say, no, you can't have our servers.
Yeah, really.
No, it's an FBI inquiry.
I can't imagine just saying no to the FBI. Like, is that a question? Like, I don't think that the FBI asks you nicely. But apparently they did, because they just told them no.
I mean, we can do this the nice way, or we can send the NSA to wiretap your offices.
It's an obstruction of justice, but here's the thing. As most of us have now come to fully understand, there are certain people and certain entities that are above the law. The DNC happens to be one of them. Plain and simple. At this point in time, plain and simple. Until we have some kind of ruling on this lawsuit in Florida, nothing's going to change.
Right.
That server would be useless at this point. The web logs, which would be the most relevant thing, they're going to be long.
Oh yeah.
Don't you think Hillary wiped it like with a cloth or something?
Well, the FBI never gave them an order to preserve particular data or anything, so they can completely legally get rid of it all.
They hit it with a strong enough magnetic pulse, everything's gone. Everything.
Well,
actually,
even just naturally, the weblogs only store a certain amount of
that's
time.
true.
Now, if they're if they're a responsible organization, they're going to have backups. Now, who would have the data? I would think that CrowdStrike, took a complete full backup of that server and worked on that. I mean, they didn't physically take the DNC servers and leave them with no servers, right?
There is another
took a copy of it and they installed it on another one.
Go ahead, Snort.
I believe that the NSA has everything that was on that server, and my conspiracy theory is that they're the ones that gave it to WikiLeaks. When Hillary said, "No, you can't have our server,"
I wouldn't doubt that, but I don't think
seriously, you gave the nation, you gave them carte blanche to hack every computer within the United States for certain. Probably far more reaching than that, because it's the fucking internet.
Yeah, but it's
there
not
was a time when the data was not.
Do you really think that you were invincible to that hacking?
Yeah, but there was a time when no hacking was necessary. That she'd left the server open.
Yeah, sure.
And
the other thing is, it's not the emails. It's for the forensics. You need other things. You need administrative logs and things like that.
Right, but the action of just leaking it out to do damage, that sounds like an NSA trick.
Sure.
Nork, you're probably right.
Now, the other thing is...
That'd be ironic.
So many unbelievable things happening here. Yeah, because the NSA and the CIA don't trust each other. The CIA is trying to develop their own NSA because they don't trust the NSA. So we don't know what kind of struggles are going on between these agencies.
I think that's.
Do you think they'll both collapse?
Yeah, it's a good point, Snork. I mean, it's kind of like when you're a bunch of thieves, everybody thinks they're being stolen from. It's that kind of thing. And also, truth is often stranger than anything we could dream up. So
maybe, I mean, it might take another one or two higher up, people that decide, okay, I'm tired of this. It's going to fall down anyway. Let me go ahead and be part of exposing it, rather than
Microsoft and Apple both complained a long time ago that they were required to do nightly updates sometimes just to make it to enable the NSA to download one person's computer. They were being forced to make so many updates that really upset them, because they weren't doing anything but enabling whatever the government needed to get access to the computers. In my opinion, for the NSA not to have copies of everything that's on all of our computers would be irresponsible for the NSA. They're responsible for knowing if we're presenting a threat. When you consider the Russian side of it, if a Russian saw that there was an ability to get into a server for information, I think they would have their career advancement opportunities erased if they didn't take advantage of it. The same would be true for China, and now we know that even Germany and other countries did it.
I can't help but wonder if they thought that maybe the Hillary Clinton was punking them. No one's actually that stupid to leave their servers unencrypted with this much important information, right?
Right, but you got to imagine it from these points of the people that have absolute responsibility for making sure that they have as much information as necessary for their boss to make their decisions. They're going to try to have every piece of information they can get. That's why we have so many spies from Israel here, countries that we consider allies. Like I said, last week, Germany got caught spying on us. So,
yeah.
They all want to know they want to know other things about whether to bomb us. They want to know what things we're purchasing. They want to know what our opinions are on things that are happening worldwide that affect them. and they want to be included up to, you know, if they could figure out a way to get every conversation of Trump's, I bet there wouldn't be one country, probably other than Canada, that wouldn't bug us.
Right.
Like, I know, like, when I worked at the hospitals, and sometimes you get coworkers that would end up in the hospital too, and there would always be a couple people that would get so curious that they'd look at their medical files, you know? I mean, it's highly illegal, but curiosity would get the best of them, and they'd look at them. And you can't tell me these people, like in the NSA, with all their knowledge and ability, and you can look at Hillary Clinton's dirty secrets, and nobody's going to look at it. Somebody's got it somewhere. Somebody has to have it.
But there would be somebody's job, I would guess, in these organizations, and I don't know this for sure, whose job is to go out and tweak every single server they can find to see who's got something vulnerable. Who's buying stuff to make explosives, who's, I know in their cases, they're not looking for just explosives, but unusual activities. Yeah. Now, somebody that's going to be selling tulips in the United States is going to, or, like the Netherlands, they might send tulip spies to make sure we're not going to buy them from Colombia. That's just made up there. But everybody has their interests that are so important to them countrywide. Some countries have one product that they sell, and they desperately want to know, is somebody trying to make a deal to cut us off?
So, Joanne, I've been wanting to ask you, because you mentioned, I think it was the first time you were on, you said that you were optimistic and pessimistic at the same time. I was just wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit. I know you've been very active for years. I met a guy not too long ago that used to be very politically active, and he's like, I'm a mushroom farmer now. And that's about as much as I'm going to do, because he just got he was like, I just don't believe it's ever going to change, which was really like, but he really was full in on everything, and just kind of gave up. So I'm just curious what you're optimistic about, I guess.
Do you mean broadly?
Yeah, just,
or on a particular topic?
Maybe do you think the corruption, if that some of that's brought down, things will change? Where are you really, I guess, most optimistic and most pessimistic? I don't know.
Well, I guess what I was saying with the optimism is that, it doesn't really make sense, but I'm both cynical and optimistic. I think I'm optimistic only because you sort of have to be if you're cynical. Otherwise, it's just, too depressing. But no, I think the fact that, I forget what the last statistic I saw was, but I don't know, there's very little trust in the media, and in, which is basically the organ of the state, and of both the political state and the corporate state. So I think that's good. I think the fact that this election, even though the outcome was pretty awful, it was a rebellion election. I think it was. So I think that's good. With the corruption, frankly, I don't know. I don't know if we've passed, as Frank Church said, the abyss. He believed that if we got to the point where we had widespread domestic surveillance, that we would cross a line where we would just never be able to fight back. And he called it an abyss. I don't know. I think Who
is he?
Frank Church, of the Church Committee.
I don't know. I have to look into that.
Yeah, that was I don't know if it was part of one of his statements during the Church Committee hearings or not, but it's a pretty famous statement where he says, if they could spy on us and they could collect all that information, then, it would be all over.
Mm-hmm.
So that worries me a lot. We've had a couple of whistleblowers, but I think there are millions of, there's like 1 million people with clearance. There are thousands and millions of government employees and contractors who know what's going on, but they're just terrified to rebel or speak out about it because if you lose your clearance, your career's over pretty much, or you're gonna have to change careers. And you know, a job with a pension and benefits is you're pretty much not going to find another one of those. So
yeah,
in that sense, I am not, because I really don't want a bloody rebellion, you know, revolution.
Yeah, obviously, if you can have a peaceful one, that would be preferable.
You
one
know,
of the things that really worries me about the whole, you know, the surveillance. You know, you hear stuff like, oh, well, if they wanted to make it look like, you know, the footprint of this this country was here, you know, that they could falsify. Like, how are we ever going to know? You know, if the truth comes out and then they try to, then I don't know, fabricate something else to cover it up. I mean, that's
You really wouldn't. I mean, that's
Theoretically, that was supposed to have been in the realm of what was called the line eater, which was never proven to exist or not exist. It's just in a responsible operation. I would not. I would have fired anybody that hadn't set that up.
but with the elections, you know, it's pretty concerning that Homeland Security is so anxious to standardize and take control over the, you know, at that point, I think there's a lot of concern by, let's just say, the establishment about the internet, the fact that we can all talk to each other, we can talk to people in other countries, and a standardization with, you know, something like Homeland Security having any kind of control or access on those servers. I mean, you know, I think they would just solve this rebellion problem by just fixing the elections and putting on a big show every election day. I know that might be, I don't know, that sounds conspiratorial, but what would you put it past them at this point? I mean, I certainly wouldn't.
No, I remember, wasn't that right before Obama left office that there was something about him wanting, he was talking about that, about standardizing the voting across states or something.
Declaring them a critical, you know, thing to national security.
Yeah, all under the guise of protecting us, right?
Oh, always.
Yeah, because Obama had Homeland Security take over the polling stations before he left.
Yep, that's right.
So, you know, I don't want to be a downer, but between that and the other thing that worries me is that, you know, I think it's pretty clear there are some people who want a very larger war. And I'm just worried that, you know, the, let's say, the decline of the empire, which I think is pretty clear, we're in some kind of a decline, that somebody's going to see the solution to that as being, well, you know, hey, we came out on top after World War II, and we had a great advantage for a good 30, 40 years after that. Let's do it all over again. I don't know. Are the neocons crazy enough to think that way?
This, they would have to be crazy. This is a completely different world.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I mean, the countries that have nukes in this world today, I'm sorry, they would not hesitate. I mean, look at North Korea. You really think that this is something we should be considering? I mean, nobody in their right mind would possibly think that that's you know, a survivable outcome.
But there are people who think that we can win a nuclear war. But that's completely
no one wins a nuclear war. No,
there are papers.
Why do I get the?
You can find it.
I keep getting reminded of that H Bomber guy show. About the response from Tory voters to Jeremy Corbyn's denial to start nuclear wars.
In the Putin interviews, Putin says something about that because Oliver Stone asked something about the missile defense shield or something, and Putin was like, that's like false sense of security. There's, you know, that nobody's going to survive that if that happens. But, you know, if Ebon were on here, he would say they don't actually really want that because it would be mutual destruction. But we talked about this last night. I think we all feel like it's going to kind of take on a life of its own, and they may not really want it, but they're playing with fire, that it may just sort of escalate to that.
Just watch. All you have to do is watch Dr. Strangelove. It wouldn't take much. It really wouldn't take much.
Yeah.
Just the right people in the wrong place with the wrong amount of authority, and we're gone.
We've already sort of seen it too, because if you listen to Wes Clark, you know, in that famous speech he gave about 5 countries in 5 years or something, you know, he called it a foreign policy coup. And the Wolfowitzes and these guys have been in government for a long time, but they were considered the crazy guys, you know, and how they came into power and got their policies in. I mean, that's pretty, nobody has really answered the question is, how did that happen? I mean, how did these guys get this stuff through, and everybody just sort of let it happen?
The deep state is running the country.
I've had this discussion with Broken. I don't know where he is, but I said it's baby boomers. No, I should not generalize one whole group.
No, that's not fair.
I'm not a baby boomer, but the deep state is running the government.
Yeah, but it kind of came from a comment I was telling him about Roseanne DeMauro at the summit. She was, you know, she was talking to the crowd, and she said, don't let any of them tell you, you know, you don't know what you're talking about. It was largely my generation that screwed this up. So no, it's not fair to say the whole generation, but
it's not fair. It's
not okay.
Because I be telling my husband, he's like, I've been seeing that word and hearing that word deep state. What are you talking about? I said, just look it up. You'll find out.
But I do think there's a recklessness, and Bram, you're right, I shouldn't generalize. I'm kind of joking, really. But there does seem to be this recklessness that, I mean, I don't know, my grandparents' generation, just more cautious in our media and our rhetoric and everything, and that just seems to be not there. I don't know.
You know, let me explain something. You've got to look at it from a historical perspective, and that is this: you had baby boomers who came up after World War II, okay, and they were around during the Vietnam era, and they had their own struggles, they had their own issues. And they got to a point where they just said, you know, we're going to work hard, we're going to earn a living, and we're going to, you know, have good lives for ourselves and for our children. And that was what they fought for. Now, could it have been taken further? Sure, it could have. But we're at the point now where it's too late to be playing the blame game. It's too late for that.
Yeah, absolutely. But like I see it in that generation had a whole lot of advantages, you know, that those of us that came after don't, and they just don't really seem to care, you know. It's like, I think Broken said something about, you know, pulling up the ladder up behind them. So I don't know, but I'm not meaning the whole everybody.
To an extent, that's true, but it's not entirely. What I'm saying is it's not entirely their fault. And even if we were to sit here and blame them for it, it's too late for that anyway.
Right. Yeah, it was just the course of history, I guess. So, I mean, Wall Street deregulation, they benefited the most from that. Yeah.
And right now, I don't think Donald Trump, he really doesn't know what's going on, because the deep state is running everything, and they don't want him to talk to Putin. And that's in that G20 summit coming up.
July?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't want him to talk to him because they feeling they may get along and talk, and he don't want to go to war with Syria.
So why do they keep letting him tweet?
Keep letting him hoop.
I don't think anybody lets Trump do much of anything. I think he just decides to do what he wants.
I don't really care if Trump tweets. That means nothing. He's a bumbling. Not a bumbling idiot, but he's just a figurehead that we've always had figureheads. and that we've always had this duopoly for so long, controlling everything, and they're starting to get exposed. The DNC is the thing about the difference between the Republicans and the Democrats, and I see these cartoons all the time, is a Republican will just tell you in your face, I'm racist, I hate you, I want to shoot you, right. I want my guns, and they'll tell you, but the difference between the Democrat is they'll say, oh, look over here, everything's all bright and beautiful, and they're stabbing you in the back at the same time.
And I want the black vote.
Yeah, black vote and all that other stuff. So we've been going through this for a long time. I keep telling everybody, I don't know who voted for a third party, but I did I did
so I could just piss them off.
I'm done with these two duopolist, oligarchic craziness that keeps putting us in this direction, which is shameful, idiotic, it's embarrassing. I mean, imagine being in the shoes, switch the shoes that we started. Let's just say that Russia started throwing out propaganda that we're meddling in their elections. Which is pretty true. We've meddled in a lot of elections, but what I'm saying is, it's just disgusting, and it's got to stop. And the only way to do it, besides pitchforks, and I've said this before, up on the hill with pitchforks and torches, going after Trumpenstein or whoever's there, is we've got to go third party, because they have FEMA camps ready for us.
I like Trump's tweets. When Trump tweets something extremely stupid, it causes an outrage. And
it does.
Back pressure that prevents him from doing something stupid.
Yeah.
Let him tweet more.
His tweet in regards to the DNC fraud case.
Yeah.
We talked about
priceless.
It was priceless. It caused CNN to get one of their lowest on the totem pole reporters to actually mention, and I actually saw it. And then at the end of their I think they mentioned it for maybe 28.5 seconds, but at the very end of it, they said, yeah, but we still need to cover Russia. So it got them talking.
Like, I don't understand why they're always criticizing him about being on Twitter. It's like, how do you know if you're not on Twitter? Like, you're always on Twitter. Like, I was looking back to see if you were looking back, kind of thing. Like, he's on there because he knows people are on there. So don't look at it.
Well, and people that criticize it, it's just the latest medium. I mean, this has happened throughout history, So, yeah.
I don't mind it. I think, what did Obama use? I think they used social media and Facebook to get him elected. Am I not correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, but he forgot about us after he got elected.
Yeah, and there was some tweets, and so it's just a form of, I think it's just a great form of marketing.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to bring up a story, and then maybe we should probably go to Anything Goes, but it's kind of relevant because it's about basically how the media covers a story and makes it what they want it to be.
Yeah.
I actually, unfortunately, happened to catch this in a restaurant tonight, which my 12-year-old daughter saw, and there were some really, honestly, to me, disturbing images. And I didn't know this story because I was 18 at the time, 17. It's the Hillsborough disaster, the soccer thing in, I think it was it Liverpool? Well, Hillsborough, I don't know what it's near, where basically 96 people were trampled to death. It's really I just couldn't believe that was on the television, because they had stills of the video of the people crushed up against the gate. It was really bad. So yeah, Zoe was quite upset. But anyway, but there's an article in The Guardian. I was wondering, why is this on right now? Apparently 5 or 6 people have now been charged all these years later. 6 people. mostly police chiefs and stuff. I'm still reading about it to try to figure out what all is going on, but they're showing now, people are saying that there was a concerted effort, from the beginning, to blame it on the people attending, and that they were drunk, and that they were trying to climb the fence, and it was an orchestrated manufacture of a story that wasn't true to cover their asses, and 96 people died.
Wow.
So, anyway, it's in the Guardian, but I just thought that was interesting because it's just more of the same. It's just all this corruption, and yeah, so pretty horrific story, but yeah. So what they had like each section of the stands were like pins, and so you couldn't get out over to the other section without getting all the way back all these levels. And so they let I think it was 5,000 people in this arena in a matter of I don't know, 5 minutes or something crazy like that. They were all outside, and this one police chief or somebody decided to open the exterior gate, and they didn't route them to the other sides. So there were empty seats in the other part, but they all came in through the middle. But so yeah, it was a tragic story, but just the worst part is how it was all covered up, and they were like, oh, they're just drunk, and so anyway.
That's a shame. So how does everyone feel that Obama has the taxpayer paying his mother-in-law $100,000 pension a year for watching the kids?
What? The kids are grown.
They're not little kids anymore.
Well, that's what he did that right before he left office. Like my husband said, he was like, they had staff. She really wasn't watching them kids that much.
That's ridiculous anyway, but yeah, they're one's in college and the other one's almost in college?
No, she's not in college. Yes, she's interning. She's up partying in New York, hanging out with some movie executive or something.
Oh, boy.
Wait, who's getting the pension?
Rich and famous.
Obama's mother-in-law? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Michelle Obama's mother.
Well, I think it looks bad.
$100,000 pension. Now, Trump's wife's mother and father is staying in the White House. So I guess when he's done, the taxpayers be paying them for babysitting. Barron.
Yeah. While I believe it sounds really bad, I believe it's actually allowed for in their pay package for being in the office. That if we really want to complain, we need to review the pay package. I mean, it's a good point. I don't think that it's right, but I don't think it's illegal.
I'm a grandmother. I don't get a pension. I don't even get paid for babysitting. Damn it! I think it's just a right.
Yeah. You know what I think? You know what I think? This is what I think about when you get older.
You babysit it.
That's right. You're a good grandma. Thank you, Shirley.
That's right.
Our parents wouldn't do shit.
They should get
Doesn't the Secret Service get that? I think they probably watch their kids more than the mother-in-law did. I don't know.
Okay, so I think the older you get, the more your kids should pay you.
Do what?
I think the older you get, the more your kids should give you a percentage of their income.
Okay.
Right? To pay you back for I think it's $500,000 by the time they're 18, from what I'm hearing.
It depends on if you send them to an expensive college, how much you spoil the little brat.
Yeah, exactly.
I was the oldest, so I didn't get jack, so I don't think my folks any. I didn't get any pay for my college. I got that through the military.
Wait, what division of the military were you in?
I was in the Navy for 10 years.
Oh, okay.
Nice. I was in the Navy for a few years.
Where all did you guys go?
I
let's
think
see.
he was on the Vincent, right? Were you on the Carl Vincent also, or no?
No, the Washington and the John F. Kennedy.
Okay, cool.
My grandfather was Navy, and we should probably go to Anything Goes. I'm going to start telling stories.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to bed, guys.
It should just be anything goes anyway. I don't know why we just don't keep it anything. Because anything usually goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, what's interesting is we'll talk about very pertinent, extremely important political topics, and then the next thing we're talking about carrots.
That's it.